served as
It is.
president of the Women's Intercollegiate Cross Country Coaches Association. So talk more about that.
Well, that was interesting. I started on the cross country committee. There's two separate committees at the time, and I think 86, 87. And and I kept saying we've got to have more numbers here. There were 16 teams when I first took over in 85. Then it became 22 teams, and a lot of really good teams were getting left home. And I said, this is not right in terms of 64 basketball teams and blah blah blah. So for 10 years, I just worked at it and worked at it, and I went from I was a vice president for a while, and then I became the president. And the way that it happened is I had a great little staff. Jimmy Bevan was my secretary. Andrew Alden was on my committee to get more numbers. Stan Rosenthal, guys that knew people, and then and I ran a really tight ship when it came to. I said, we're not going to come in here and just bitch. We're just going to come in here. I'm the president, and we're going to do it. You got a comment to make. You can make it, but eventually you got to put something on the table, and I let everybody talk through the whole process for the 2 years for sure. Um, People would stand up at convention and say, "Hey, this is what I think," and I said, "Okay, you got 3 minutes. This is not like we're not the Pope. Just you got 3 freaking minutes. Talk." Then the next person would come up, and we did that for a, a couple of years, and we went from 22 teams to 31 teams, and we from 100 and some individuals to 252. But as you know, the politics of things don't happen with the coaches. The politics happen with all the athletic directors and people on the committees.
Mhm.
Lynn King was the AD at Drake at the time, and he was in the track committee, and he said, "Okay, we can start taking this forward." Well, then it got to the point where it was right there, and Stan Rosenthal, for some reason, he was the coach at South Carolina at the time. He knew a guy who knew Gary Cunningham, who I think was the AD. Gary Cunningham. He was what?
Was he Fresno State?
He might have Fresno State,
Was that
or
Colston? Maybe that was a different guy.
I think, or it might have been Santa Barbara.
Yes, Santa Barbara. That's where he was.
So Gary Cunningham was John Wooden's assistant.
Yes.
Gary Cunningham was on the budget committee that decided who was going to get more money for certain things in the NCAA. So I called, and Stan said, "Well, here's his number." So this is the God's honest truth. July 4th, I called Gary Cunningham, right? I'm sure he's going out surfing or something. I said, "Hey, this is who I am." He goes, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm a nobody, but," and we talked about UCLA basketball for a half hour. And I said, "Well, the reason I'm calling is because I need money for this to get more numbers." And he goes, "Yeah, we're going through budget process next week." He said, "This sounds reasonable. All right." The softball was getting more numbers. And so we just, but it was because of Andrew Alden, Stan Rosenthal, Jimmy Bevan, just knowing people behind the scenes. And that's how we got it. And we went from eight regions to 9 regions, because the Southeast region was so huge. There was like 80 or 90 teams on the line, and it was like, so this is crazy. And we just redistricted everything, and but every coach got their say. Okay, now you're not deciding this. We're all going to decide this. And so when they felt like, okay, he cares about our opinions, but then it went. But then the budget thing made it happen, and it was good. So I was very proud of that, because it's like anything. It takes 10 years to get something done. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're putting somebody on the moon or whatever.
Yeah.
It takes 10 years.